Greetings, friends. Welcome to Life Mastery TV, your source for inspiration, empowerment, and fulfillment. My name is David McLeod, and I am your Life Mastery coach and author of the fabulous little book, A Life to Die For. I'm also one of the co-authors of the best-selling series, The Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. Today, we are starting on episode number 203. This one is called Framing the Negative Mind. Now, one way or another, everyone experiences pain in different ways. It might be something physical, varying in intensity from, say, a mild bruise to a flesh wound to a broken bone, or even worse. It might be psychic or emotional pain, which is a little harder to recognize and diagnose, but can be just as unpleasant to deal with. For many of us, the pains we endure are generally pretty short-lived, usually lasting for only days or a few weeks at most. However, for some of us, the pain we experience can be quite long-lasting and may create severe discomfort for months or even years on end. In this latter case, the quality of life can be severely impaired, sometimes leading to depression or, heaven forbid, even suicide. Today, we are going to look at one aspect of this whole concept of chronic pain, and that is about the negative mind, because the negative mind is probably the most challenging aspect of dealing with long-term or chronic pain. But believe it or not, if you suffer from any form of chronic pain, there really is hope. My friend and colleague, Elizabeth Kipp, has had her own struggles with chronic pain and has learned many techniques and tools for dealing with it. In this week's episode, she is going to share some of the wisdom she has learned over the years and provide us with some tips and suggestions for reframing the negative mind in order to make it easier to manage chronic pain. Please join me in welcoming the delightful and illuminating Elizabeth Kipp to today's program. Hi, Elizabeth. Welcome. I'm glad to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much, David. It's great to be here. I'm just turning my camera on. It's taking a minute. There we go. Nice to see you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, it's been a while. I know that you were on the show, I think a little over a year ago, and I think we talked about something about the body temple. I remember it was really an interesting conversation. So, by the way, folks, if you haven't seen that, I recommend you go check it out. But anyway, thank you for joining me again today. And I know you've been helping people deal with chronic pain for quite some time now. Can you share with us, maybe what happened in your life that made this such a powerful passion for you?
Oh, yes, thank you. Great question. I suffered with chronic pain for 40 years based on really undiagnosed, unrecognized, really, emotional trauma as a child. And a physical trauma when I was 14 where I broke a bone on the base of my back, split it in two, and I hurt, but I was so used to, I was an athlete and I was kind of used to the no pain, no gain kind of mantra.
Right.
So I just dealt with life with it until I was 28, when I 9 months after I had my son. My back became unstable, and that whole slip, the bone started slipping. It's now slipped. That fifth lumbar slipped, broke it from front to back, and the front is slipped into my spine 80% of the way, and pulls the leg nerves with it. And it's kind of remarkable and extraordinary, and a testament to the healing power of the body that I'm not only walking. I have hardware in there now, but I'm not only walking, but I'm a yoga teacher. So it's like, people, right. How does that even work? So that's part of the conundrum of chronic pain, is like, doctors don't understand that. Anyway, I had 4 surgeries and corrective surgeries to try and stabilize that slip. And along the way, as soon as those surgeries started, the doctor's answer for the pain that I had was opiates and benzodiazepines, which is an anti-anxiety medicine. And I was on that the last 15 years. I was on that 32 years, and the last 15 I was on fentanyl, was the opiate.
Oh, so my God. which, and we've heard just
yeah.
horror stories about fentanyl in the recent past, haven't we?
Yes, and because I was a patient and it was kind of my area for a long time, patients were dying left and right in their sleep from overdoses, and I never knew if I would wake up at night. That was a whole other
aspect. That's just terrifying.
Another aspect of so I feel like grace chased me right into this job, right into this seat, and I had the opportunity not only to have my own experience with chronic pain for over 40 years, but I sat in front of and beside thousands of chronic pain sufferers in hospital, in rehab centers, in doctors' offices, and I most of them didn't know how to talk to their doctors. So, and I have the science background, and even on all that medication, I was able to help them be able to this is what you need to ask your doctor, kind of thing. So I've been a patient advocate for a long time. Anyway, I finally found a doctor who really understood the nature of chronic pain, and also understood how to detox off that kind of medication, and that was in the fall of 2013. And as soon as I got out of that treatment and his pain management program, I went into business and put up my website and started this work that I do now.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations on making it through one hell of a harrowing journey.
Thank you.
I mean, that just sounds, I'm sorry, it sounds awful. I really would not want to wish that on anybody, and I'm sorry you had to go through it. At the same time, I see how you are now, and I see the kind of grace and wisdom that you bring to the world. And, obviously, well, that might not have happened if not for those horrible events that happened earlier in your life.
Also, all the tools I used to clear the effects of it. That's what you're seeing is the effects of the tools that I use. Yeah. And the help I had along the way. Oh my goodness. I had armies and armies of people holding me along the way. So much gratitude there.
Right. Well, and there's a lot of little subtopics that you brought up in your explanation. First, I think you talked about how you had some emotional trauma when you were in your early teens, that I suppose that maybe didn't contribute or didn't cause your back problem, but it may have contributed in some way because maybe you weren't as focused as you could have been. And who knows what that emotional trauma would have done to you.
Well, it's a good point you bring up. My experience at this point is that people that, and I'm in recovery from addiction, obviously, being on pain medicine that long, that's an addictive, those are both addictive medications. So I work with the addiction recovery population within that chronic pain space to help them. And what I noticed in the rooms, the recovery rooms, is that everybody there was a chronic pain sufferer. And a lot of them that are in the room are still suffering from chronic pain. They just don't realize it. They don't know how to label it. They don't know how to, they don't know how to identify it. And all of us, before we had chronic pain, we had unresolved trauma. So the interesting thing here, the crux of it for me is like the doctors said to me, except the last one, Dr. Peter, who took me through treatment, et cetera. The doctor said to me, you will be in level 7, 10 out of 10 pain for the rest of your life. You will be in a wheelchair when you're 40. And so so that's a very interesting statement. And it's an inaccurate, obviously an inaccurate statement. They're working within a model. The model has limitations. And even within the model they were working, that's an inaccurate statement. But it told me more about the model they were working in than it told me about how the body's ability to heal.
Yeah.
And it also told me that their assumption was I wasn't going to heal. And that's a powerful assumption. Now,
well, of course, and if you believe that to be true, guess what? You're setting yourself up for failure to begin with.
Right. So the question that they missed was, why isn't Elizabeth healing? And if they had looked at the unresolved emotional trauma in my background, they would have understood how that was contributing to my chronic pain. It wasn't the only thing, but it was a piece of it. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I was, as you were talking, I was thinking, I remember when I was a kid, it wasn't that long ago, really. There still were doctors who would make house calls.
Mhm.
Nowadays, people say a house call. What the hell is that? You know, they think you're talking about some other kind of house call, if you know what I mean. Nudge, nudge. But I think, no, I'm not talking. Doctors would actually come to your home. They'd carry their little bag of their medical bag. They'd come in. They'd take your blood pressure. They do all the things they could do that didn't require you to be in a clinic or something. And often it was just a case of, yeah, you're fine. You just need a couple of aspirin or something to kind of, take care of yourself. Well, nowadays, to me, that was the medical profession.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. But nowadays, it's not a medical profession anymore. It's now the medical industry. It's all about business. It's all about selling those pills. It's all about getting you to take some kind of medication in order to deal with whatever symptoms that they can identify. It's really not about healing at all. Our current medical industry is really about keeping you sick so that they can make money off of the stuff that you have to take. It really is a depressing scenario. And so people, as you are trying to teach them, have to take responsibility for their own well-being and look at how they can do their own healing by, I guess, well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, so that's really kind of interesting to me, how the entire medical profession has changed so dramatically in the last 40 to 50 years.
It has, and it's also continuing to evolve because there are more and more doctors that now recognize what Dr. Peter Prescott did, who took me through his treatment program, that you can't separate mind, body, and spirit. And when you treat them, you have to treat them as one.
Holistically, yeah.
So that's called an integrated doctor. And so, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater quite. When I sit in front of a Western doctor, I understand the lens that it doesn't matter who they are, whether it's a Western doctor, an acupuncturist, an Ayurvedic, it doesn't matter. Whoever it is, I'm looking at what's the lens you're looking through. And how is it limited? Because everybody's got a limited view. It's the nature of the human condition. So I'm always cognizant of that. And in the chronic pain realm, Western doctors generally are not trained in how to manage chronic pain. Western doctors are trained really well in trauma. Like they're really good at trauma in hospitals, like car accidents and stuff like that. It's the chronic illness that's the challenge, where we get into what you're talking about, where we get into the pill mills and stuff like that. Yeah. So,
but I think you've hit the nail on the head. The heart, body, mind, and soul, the holistic human. You have to take all parts together. You can't just treat one without addressing the others. So, yeah, you want to deal with the immediate danger, deal with the obvious symptoms as quickly as you can, but you also want to look at cause and effect and, what's the root of all this? Where did it come from? And as you say, any unresolved trauma that happened in the past. So I think those are really, really important. I think we're kind of going around in circles here, but what I'd like to do is maybe refocus a little bit. Can you help us understand what exactly do we mean by chronic pain? I know that it's a common term. I hear it, and I don't really know what it means exactly. Can you help us understand that?
Sure, yes. It's a great question. We need to start there. Chronic pain is any pain that's felt 15 days out of 30 for 3 months or more. Any pain, physical, emotional, spiritual, financial, psychological, doesn't matter. It all sends the same signal to the brain. It hurts. So the brain can't tell the difference between a broken bone and a broken heart. So grief is a chronic pain experience. Depression is a chronic pain experience. physical pain that's long lasting, if it's 15 days or more out of 30 for 3 months or more, that's chronic too. And why is that important? Because the brain, and we'll get into this part, the brain is actually fundamentally changed by chronic pain, the chronic pain experience. One of the things that happens is we get confusion in the brain. Anybody who's listening to this has got a chronic pain history will understand brain fog and confusion. I can't think straight. I don't remember stuff. It's because of the parts of the brain that are getting affected by the chronic pain experience. So it wasn't so much about my back as it was about the way the brain was processing what was happening in my back.
Right. Okay, so now having said that, maybe we jumped the gun a little bit here. When we say the word pain, I think most people instantly go to this idea of pain in my body. They associate with, oh, I banged my knee, I smashed my head against the door, or I did this, I did that. So they relate to pain in that sense. And I got to tell you, truthfully, I understand the concept of emotional pain, and I know what it's like to have that really, what's the word I want to say? It's like my heart feels it's being compressed when I feel grief or something like that. So I know that, but I say in my mind, they feel different to me. They feel profoundly different, as a matter of fact. And so I'd like you to talk a little bit about the different kinds of pain and how we can experience them. And, do we have a definition for the word pain anyway? Maybe we do.
Well,
I don't know.
Pain in this sense is anything that doesn't feel good.
Okay.
Keeping it really simple, pain is anything that doesn't feel good. You're describing differences in sensation. So when I broke my wrist a few years ago, and I didn't use pain medicine to mitigate that, because I'm clean and I don't need it really, because I use my tools. That was a throbbing pain for a while because the inflammation, a lot of inflammation, throbbing pain, right? And pressure. I could feel the pain. There was some heat there. Grief, to me, I agree. It lives in the upper chest and maybe in the heart. And for me, that I can actually feel a little bit of heat around the heart, which is kind of in the pericardium area, which is called the heart protector, interestingly enough. And I feel some kind of pressure and heaviness in the upper chest. So we're describing different sensations, and but the signal of those sensations, it doesn't feel good. It's the same signal the brain still reads as it doesn't feel good. It hurts. It's the same signal. So it doesn't kind of matter whether it's super intense, like whether I've got a kidney stone, which I've had those, or whether I broke a bone, or whether I just broke up with my husband, because I actually did that a couple of years ago, and it was 40-year relationship. Boom! I was like, oh my God, it's painful, right? Painful. Well, it's all the same to the brain. It sends this it hurts signal. Even I'm disconnected from my creator. That's a spiritual kind of pain. That creates that might create more of like an emptiness in the heart area, maybe a little more intangible, but it's still a sensation, and it still feeds the same it hurts signal into the brain. So it ultimately, by the time it gets to the brain, all those signals are the same. Now, the added piece that I wanted to put in there is the other thing, other than confusion and brain fog, is this pronounced negative mind, which we'll talk about today. That the emotional center in the brain gets affected by chronic pain, and it turns on this. We're already a little bit negatively biased anyway, just to kind of keep ourselves safe in the world. Right. Chronic pain, it's like putting that whole situation on steroids. It just blows up. So it's a problem.
All right. So if I understand correctly, then pain really is anything that we experience in our lives, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, whatever, that causes a signal to be sent to the brain saying, this is not good, this hurts, this, whatever the words are that we might associate with that. And then, of course, the brain has to respond somehow to do something to, I don't know, to reduce that it hurts feeling. So tell me a little bit about what happens with the brain when that process begins.
Well, that's actually a little bit above my pay grade. I can't.
Nothing's above your pay grade.
I can't really explain I have science background, so you're just getting into like neurophysiology there on a cellular level, and I actually don't know what happens there.
Okay, but the brain does do something to respond.
I know that we have a reaction, and what I know is, from my own experience, because I've run the tests, I've run the experiment, what the mind is saying about the pain experience is a huge piece of whether it sticks around and how intense it gets.
Right.
So when I had my back pain from surgery and stuff, I had no tools other than, they gave me opiates and benzos to calm me down. But I had and I did have a meditation practice at the time. I did have that. And that kept me kind of sane, but it didn't in terms of like, I can kind of hang on, but I didn't have any kind of tools to kind of root me in that pain experience and help mitigate it. I didn't have any of that. Meditation for me, it didn't do that. It just kind of kept me like from freaking out. It just kept me steady through it until I could kind of find a way through it when I found Dr. Peter Prescott.
Okay. All right. Well, we don't have to know specifically what the brain does, but obviously the brain does respond to the situation, and I guess it does whatever it can do. Like maybe it's telling us things like you need to lie down and rest, or you need to.
It gives you a signal to pay attention. Pay attention to this because pain is part of healing. So it makes it. Chronic pain is interesting. Pain in general, but we're talking really more about chronic pain. Chronic pain steals our attention away from everything. It tries anyway. It tries to steal our attention away from everything, but it's kind of got its own gravity, gravity field, right? So that's part of the challenge of reframing the negative mind in chronic pain, the chronic pain experience, because we're drawn, our attention is drawn to it. And then what am I saying about my chronic pain, my pain experience? So when I broke my wrist in 7 pieces a few years ago and didn't use pain medicine, but used my tools, I was like, oh, pain is part of healing. This hurts. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to breathe and allow the body to rest. And I didn't put a spin on it. Oh, this is bad. I'm going to be like this forever. And I didn't go there. Because I knew better, right? But when I was dealing with all that back surgery, I didn't have the tools of. I couldn't get any grounding in terms of. They didn't have any answers for me. In my mind, my negative mind just flew away with me. It was just like, how this is going to get worse. I got to hang on. This is horrible. I hate this. I'm fighting with the pain. It's just right. It's completely
and making it a lot worse in the process.
Absolutely, completely. Yeah. So that what our mind is saying about our experience is a huge piece of how we mitigate the chronic pain experience in the first place, and whether our pain experience is going to be chronic.
Right. Well, yeah, and the problem is this negative mind that you're talking about. I refer to it as the ego mind, but I think we're talking about the same thing. Its objective really is to keep us safe. Mm-hmm. And if we're feeling discomfort or pain or something like that, then safety may seem like it's out the window. We're not safe in that environment. And what's worse is that the ego mind can then put the blame for that lack of safety onto us and start condemning ourselves. You idiot, how did you let that happen to yourself? You're going to get stories like that going on in your mind. And so that just makes the whole pain experience, it's already bad enough. But now we're talking about, let's throw on, let's pile on, let's just make it worse. Let's just judge the hell out of ourselves and make ourselves, even more miserable. And that then is the sort of thing that leads us to try some of these, maybe I got to take some marijuana, or that's not working. So maybe I got to take a little bit of heroin or some other thing like that to just numb the pain, or alcohol, whatever. So we end up creating our own worst possible solutions by listening to this negative mind. So I'm going to come back to you now. You talked about meditation a little bit. What do you do to quiet or calm your negative mind so that it doesn't pile on in that manner?
Well, you've touched on a few really important points, and it's this nexus in the nervous system that I'm not safe. In that experience, this chronic pain experience, the nervous system is saying, I'm not safe. And because the emotional part of the brain is affected in its negative, we have this negative expectancy, this bias in the negative brain. We've got a real rat's nest there. We've got the nervous system that's
a good description.
that's on this where the stress response is off balance, is dysregulated, and we've got the negative mind that's not helping the situation, right? So we really have to kind of first of all recognize the landscape. Oh, this is what's happening here. And the second thing is it's a good idea to get with somebody else who can help you, because at this point your nervous system is so dysregulated, you need somebody else to help you co-regulate and help you calm down. It's very difficult to do that on your own. I've done it when I hurt my wrist, but I had so much background and I had so many tools, and I'd used them for so many years I could do that. But I also was using my healthcare people to help me regulate and get out of, so I didn't get into chronic pain with this. This is pretty painful for about 6 weeks.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So meditation is the number one. It's really the number one tool, the most effective tool at quieting the mind. This super active, hyperactive mind.
Mm-hmm.
Challenge is when the nervous system is so dysregulated. You try and get somebody in the chronic pain experience to sit still, and their nervous system's like, all it wants to do is run. So it's always like this challenge to sit in front of someone in chronic pain and teach them meditation, because sitting still is not a thing. So I don't have to sit still. I don't ask them to sit still. I give them music and mantra meditation, and I help them move the body just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So they can do something. There's some beautiful mantra meditations out of the yogic tradition, which I teach this stuff in the trauma-informed space, that will calm the nervous system enough so that the body can at least sit still enough in a musical setting with a little bit of movement. And they do that for maybe 40 days. They do that as a practice. And I teach them a little bit about breath, which we'll get into in a minute. And then maybe after 40 days, maybe a couple of 40-day practices, then they can sit still and do a quiet meditation. So I take them in through stages.
Right. And that's a good way to do it too. I think, so you mentioned something earlier on about recognizing what's going on. And that requires kind of separating yourself from your pain for a moment and just being the observer, trying to be an impartial, dispassionate observer who's just saying, this is what's happening. And if you can do that, you're already halfway there. The other thing that I do with my clients, they get active, they want to move around. I tell them, well, what part of your body really wants to move? What part of your body is anxious to move? And tell me what kind of movement it wants to do. So sometimes it might be like they're feeling like they need to do this. I said, okay, can you do that without hurting yourself? And if they can, I just say, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and do it. Let your body do what it wants to do. It's kind of trying to shake out the energy. It's trying to find its own way to calmness. So trust it. Obviously, if you've got a broken arm or a broken wrist, doing something like that might not be the best thing to do in that moment.
You can do something else.
But I think that's what you're doing. You're inviting them into moving something. And so what happens when I do this? Well, my attention is on doing this. I'm not thinking about the pain anymore. That's what's really amazing.
That's true. And you're also discharging some pent up energy, which is sitting
right.
in the nervous system. So we really, I think it's really important that yes, we're talking about reframing the mind here, but if we're not also spending a little bit of time addressing, like, well, the nervous system's kind of got its own agenda, and we need to address it as well. We're not serving the audience. I don't feel the best that we can.
Well, I agree with that. Yeah, it's you're paying attention to what's going on. You're honoring how you feel rather than condemning it or judging it
or fighting with
it. And that's a very, very important aspect. I think what we have to do is say, this is how I feel. I feel like crap right now. And I want to stop feeling like crap. All right, so let's find a way to help you do that. Let's, get some of that energy out. And then the other thing I tell people to do a lot is to breathe. I mean, like really breathe as deeply as you can and as quickly as you can until it becomes less panicky in your body, if you like. And now it's much easier to relax when you release some of that energy. Once you're in a relaxed state, then the meditation can become much easier, and you're already doing that. It's a beautiful process, getting people to kind of relax the mind, and rather than judging or complaining about the mind or making it bad because it's doing what it does, just acknowledge that it's trying to keep you safe. It's doing what it was intended to do.
That's right. Our mantra in that space would be relent complaint. Yeah. That's not in part of the program anymore. Complaining just throw it out. It's not helpful. Also, I would just say in terms of the breath, I don't know about breathing quickly. That would be very measured and conscious. If I would have to I'd be teaching that. I'd have to be in the room with somebody who, and I would suggest to anybody that's in chronic pain with breath work, we want to have that inhale and exhale, even in length and duration to one another, or the exhale a little bit longer.
Sure.
A little bit longer, because that tells, again, the nervous system, it tells that vagus nerve, oh, I'm safe. That longer equal to or longer exhale will actually tell the vagus nerve, oh, it'll start to calm the vagus nerve, which is our threat assessment system in the nervous system.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, breathing is it's a challenging topic because we in Western culture simply are not taught how to breathe properly. We all, because it's a natural function, your body just breathes naturally. We think, oh, well, the body will take care of itself. And most of the time that is true. But what we have learned, and what I'm sure you've learned through yoga and meditation and various other techniques, is that breathing is a far more complex process than we really understand. And the more we can practice doing breathing exercises, the better we can get at relaxing ourselves. I mean, I have COPD, so breathing is a challenge for me on some days. And so I just sit and I do these they're fairly intense breathing exercises to strengthen my diaphragm and my lungs, and to allow the lungs to do the work that they were meant to do. When I'm just sitting on my chair doing my work, whatever, I tend to breathe pretty shallow. But when I do these exercises, it reminds me to take the full measure of my lungs' capabilities and to do it on a regular basis. It's very, very good training. I'm not trying to supersede anything that you've said. I'm just
no. You're bringing up such an important point. Most of us shallow breathe, and why is that a problem? Because the alveoli, where there's gaseous exchange, the little organelles where we exchange gases in the lung, most of them are in the base of the lung. So not all of them, but most of them are in the base of the lung. And so for shallow breathing all day, what happens? We're not getting oxygen into the cells, and we're not releasing the CO2 and other toxins that are sitting in the base of the lung collecting, because we're not breathing fully. Right. And then we wonder why we've got brain fog and we don't feel well.
Exactly.
Right. So, you can sit in your chair and do like 6 to 10 really long, slow, deep breaths. And like all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm back.
That's right. Yeah.
It doesn't take much, but it takes something. We have to, right? We have to do that. So breath work would be the review the exercise. Well, the breathing, I would just, I've got like 1,000 hours in breath work through my yoga teacher training. So you're asking a big question, but I'll just teach you I'll teach you 2 exercises that are really super helpful for chronic pain people. One.
These are breathing exercises specifically?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Just sit up straight and straighten the back, relax the shoulders back and down, and raise the heart a little bit. So you've got full access to the lung. And just inhale and exhale as deeply as you can. But finding ease in the breath, not forcing anything. Keeping the inhale and the exhale even in length and duration. Just one little pause at the top and the bottom of the inhale and exhale, but don't hold it. We don't want to hold. Just inhale and exhale. Nice, slow, and deep. Not forcing the breath, but finding ease in the breath. And you'll discover when you can find ease in your breath, and you can do this as a habit, you'll find ease in your life. We come in on an exhale. We exit this life. We die on an exhale. If we come in on an inhale, we die on an exhale. And the quality of our life depends on the quality of our breath. So hear David and I when we talk about how important the breath is, right? So that's a very simple one. And I challenge anybody in this room, we've got at least 2 people and anybody watching the recording, to do long, deep breathing, just like I've described, for 11 minutes a day for 40 days. It's a life changer. It will change your life. 11 minutes. Just see what happens. It's pretty cool. So that's one exercise. The other one that I would suggest for chronic pain people is just cover your right nostril and just breathe in the left side, long and deep. Just in through the left nostril, long and deep, just like we did, a minute ago with inhale, exhale, even in length and duration, 3 minutes. What does that do? That stimulates the calming center in the brain when you breathe in the left side. So in the chronic pain experience, we often have, I had panic attacks out the yin yang when I was in that space. And this is really good for anxiety. You start to feel that nervousness in the nervous system in the body. You're starting to get jittery. Just 3 minutes of left nostril breathing, the nervous system will get the message it's safe after all, and you'll get relief. So, and then you need to address whatever the thing is that just made you anxious in the first place. You need to be addressing that. But that's left nostril breathing is amazing. Now I could teach you there's all kinds of alternate nostril breathing and lots of other things. But for today, those 2 things, long deep breathing and left nostril breathing. And if you want more than that, find me on my website and I'll be happy to shoot me an email. Come to my yoga class.
Well, it's interesting. I do a number of different yoga breathing techniques myself. Mm-hmm. There's one called Anuloma Vilona, which is, I think, the alternate nostril breathing that you were talking about.
Okay.
And then there's another one called Kapalabhati, which I believe is the where you're pushing as much air out of your lungs as possible and just allowing the inhale to happen on its own. And then you try to increase the speed of that. And what happens for me, because I have COPD, I've been looking for all kinds of breathing exercises to help open up my lungs and to improve, because I don't want to be one of those guys rolling around in a wheelchair with an oxygen tube in my nose. My grandfather died from emphysema, and I don't really want to go through that experience. So I've been looking for different kinds of breathing techniques, and those are 2 that I incorporate. I have another another one that I learned from, you ever heard of Wim Hof?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that does the ice.
No, I don't suggest that for chronic pain, though. I don't suggest.
No, I'm not suggesting that. But what his brother, Marcel Hoff, came up with some really amazing and powerful breathing exercises that I use, that it's like, I can't remember I have to go and look it up again, because it's been a few days since I did it, but it's inhale and exhale as completely as possible, always through the mouth. And the purpose of that is to get the lungs really working, and it warms up the body. It creates relaxation. It is amazing. And I do that for 5 minutes. And then he insists, exhale and hold the exhale for 50 seconds, then inhale, hold the inhale for 25 seconds, and then a second round. And it's powerful.
Yeah, I've done that. Yeah. So
I don't know what he calls it, but
it is very powerful. I'm familiar with Wim Hof. I'm familiar with that technique as well. Yeah. But here's the issue for chronic pain people. Again, the nervous system is dysregulated. In this particular space, I do not suggest holding the breath on the inhale or the exhale, because it can send a signal to the nervous system that it's not safe, and it can trigger this. It can make it worse. So, right. This is for people that have gotten a little farther down the road, and their nervous system is calm, and your nervous system looks just fine. So, well,
yeah, I was just mentioning it as,
because, I have people that go in that are chronic pain people, and they go in and go to a breath workshop, and they do box breathing, which is, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold the exhale for 4. And they come to me and they're like, I'm so freaked out. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you're holding the breath and you're not ready for that. Your nervous system is not ready. So it's just kind of
a good point. I'm glad you brought that up, and I'll keep that in mind, for people who are looking for that kind of relaxation. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Yeah, you don't want to trigger even more activity in the nervous system. That's for sure.
Yeah. So what do we do when we get scared? We hold the breath. So when we're doing conscious breathing and we bring in a breath hold, and we've got people with unresolved trauma in the room, we're asking for trouble. And I we're always first do no harm is kind of where I'm going. So
of course. Yeah.
So but there are lots of different breath techniques, and they make me excited. Now I have a few. My teacher will bring in a new one every once in a while. They'll bring in some new thing I haven't done. And what's interesting is, this is just how sensitive my nervous system is from this old pattern of chronic pain. As much regulation as I do, I can get dysregulated in a heartbeat when I ask my body to do something it's never done before. And I've had yoga teachers, we're going to do this now. And I'm like, and my nervous system, I can feel it start to shake. And I'm like, and I can hear the yoga teacher say, stay with it. The breath will see you through. And I'll have to stop and calm the nervous system, get back to a regular breath, start again. The body will kind of twitch and the mind will jump, and I'm like, okay, I get it. And I calm, stop again, let it calm. I start again. By the third time, the body's and the mind are like, oh, you want us to do something new. We're on it.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's for me, it's this, I kind of have to ease into new stuff, because I've got this hair trigger that's kind of, I'm regulated, but I can get dysregulated pretty quickly. Now, it doesn't take long for me to get regulated again, but that trigger is kind of there a little bit on a hair trigger, just from old patterning. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's great. And what you're really talking about here is going back to what we spoke about at the beginning. You're talking about making sure that you maintain your awareness. You want to be, constantly on the lookout and aware of what's going on in your body, in your heart, in your mind, in your soul. You want to bring as much, as high a level of awareness as you can, and attention on it. Keeping focus, if you like. So if you bring those three elements together, awareness, attention, focus, and you bring them together, and you can start to just, as you say, bring yourself back into regulation fairly quickly, just by having that awareness. And the problem is, as if you get into that state of panic or fear or whatever, it's harder to maintain that awareness level because your focus now is on keeping yourself safe, on protecting yourself. But if you can recognize, I really am safe, this fear that I'm experiencing is just a mental thing that's going on right now. I really am safe, and here's what's going on. If you can say that to yourself, then you can start to elevate your awareness and bring yourself back into regulation, as you were talking.
You can. I feel like I always keep in my back pocket that we are social beings, and co-regulation is part of how we find regulation in the nervous system. So if I'm having an event where I feel, like I said, I get my nervous system will go right into dysregulation. If I can't self-regulate, my card in my back pocket is to get with somebody on the phone, preferably FaceTime, so I can see their face and they can help me co-regulate. There's a lot there, so it's helpful.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
To remember that we're meant to connect, and part of when I'm not safe is protecting, and when I'm protecting, I can't connect. So, and connection is kind of a big part of our regulation in the nervous system and kind of our whole life on a mind, body, spirit system. So, important to understand that. Oh, I'm protecting, I'm defensive, and I need to connect to somebody to help me calm down. Also, when we get in an argument with a spouse, for instance, or somebody, I'm protecting my turf. The other person gets defensive on their part, and we're doing this protect, and we're not connecting. And everybody wonders what's happening because we're all in protective mode. And when we're defensive, we can't connect to one another. So it's very important that we, as you say, realize what's going on here. Oh, I'm feeling like I'm having to defend myself. And when I'm doing that, I can't protect. I can't connect with others. So, right. We look at that in a context of relationship, and it takes on a whole new meaning. Yeah.
So ultimately, then, the idea of reframing the negative mind it seems to be twofold, at least. There might be more pieces here, but the primary one is to calm the negative mind. And you can do that through the different kinds of gentle movements that we talked about, the meditation, the mantras, gentle breathing exercises that don't involve holding the breath, various other techniques that you've talked about to help calm and bring that ego mind into a more relaxed state. And then once we're in that place, the next phase really is about, I guess, bringing some healing energy to ourselves so that we can reduce the level of that chronic pain and make ourselves more, I don't know, what's the word I want to say here, more whole, I guess. So let's talk a little bit about, let's assume then that we've somehow calmed the negative mind, and now we want to bring some healing. We want to do something to heal this chronic pain. What methods do you use to help people do that?
Well, I would say gratitude and compassion. Remember, I said relent complaint. So that means gratitude. We stop complaining. And the question really is a couple of them. One is, in the chronic pain space, we may not say, what is the gift, but maybe what is the lesson in this for me? Mm-hmm. They're the same to me, really, but what is the lesson here? What can I learn from this experience? So that would be a piece of it. And another one is like, am I judging the moment? Am I judging this as bad? Is this, because that's part of the problem is our judgment. Sure. And then I had another piece I wanted to bring in. Oh yeah. The other piece is like, it's a quote from my teacher, John Newton, of Health Beyond Belief. and he's not the only one. It's just, he said it, and I like the way he put it. He said, when I can accept, when I accept that this moment is enough, it's the only moment I'll ever need.
That's right.
And in the chronic pain experience, we're going for something else. We're not accepting the moment. We're pushing against the moment. I want to get somewhere else because I don't like this. And that puts gas on the fire. It just adds to the pain.
Sure.
So the challenge really in the chronic pain space is, can I accept this moment as it is? And I'll tell you something. Imagine yourself in a chronic pain experience where you're fighting with the pain. Now imagine you're Niagara Falls and you're flowing freely and you have a pain experience and you're fighting with the pain. That's like putting a clamp on Niagara Falls. And what happens? You put a clamp on it, there's a lot of pressure in that pipe, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So when you stop judging your pain and just accept, oh, pain is part of healing, this is my experience in this moment, and you go to neutral, you know what happens? The clamp disappears and you become Niagara Falls and you're just energy. And the pain, it's just intense energy. It's not actually pain anymore. And I've had that experience because that's how I got through breaking my arm in 7 places right up the forearm. That's how I got through that. Because I had to go into meditation to be there. So I had to be still and I had to kind of focus on that space. But that's a fact. I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is amazing.
That's right. Yeah.
It's kind of disappeared. It doesn't hurt. It's just a lot of energy there, but I'm not having this stressful experience. So accepting the moment, when I can accept that this moment is enough, this moment is all I ever need.
Yeah. So that's beautiful. So you're saying something that are a couple of things here. Pain is a part of the healing experience. Mm-hmm. And that's a really important thing for people to understand. Once you say that, and I felt this in my body as you were talking, it seems like the pain, as you say, it kind of transforms from this negative vibe into, it's just intense energy. That's all it is.
Exactly.
And it's just flowing in its own way, and it's trying to do its job, which is to heal me and bring me back into wholeness.
Yeah.
And if we can see it that way, if we can recognize it that way, if we can keep our awareness on it to that level, then it makes it easier for us to actually be grateful for the pain.
Yeah.
Because then you can say, oh, it's just doing its job.
Yeah, it's
well,
healing.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it because you're helping me to heal.
Exactly.
And what is healing but returning to wholeness?
Yeah.
So,
it's pretty cool. So, when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, when we hurt ourselves and the adults would rush in and they would do whatever they could as fast as they could to stop the pain. And so what's the message we're getting? Oh, we're in a war with pain. Pain is bad. That's so right. We have this fundamental programming, conditioning around pain. And what I'm saying is a part of healing chronic pain and certainly managing it, but ultimately healing it is clearing our judgment around it and understanding, as you said, that the true nature of pain is part of healing. So we go with it instead of push against it.
As you mentioned that, it just reminded me of a little incident I had with my dog last year, or maybe it was the year before, I can't remember. But we were out playing. I was tossing the ball. He was chasing the ball. The ball happened to go up into one of these kids' playground areas, and he had to climb some stairs to get the ball. And when he came back down, I heard this yelp. But he just kept going. And I said, what the hell happened? And I started looking at him and I checked, and he'd ripped one of his toenails out.
Oh!
But that was it. One yelp, not another sound out of him.
Yeah.
I did have to take him to the vet to get it fixed. But I was amazed at, okay, he had his pain reaction. It's done. He's now carrying on with what's next.
Exactly. Animals are completely different. I mean, we're animals, but humans are not like other animals.
I know.
We have this, other animals, when they get stressed, they shake they shake it off, or they yelp, or they whatever, they deal with it in the moment. We tense up. We do the opposite. We might yell, but we tense up. We don't let the energy through us. We tense up and fight against it, and that creates all kinds of problems for us.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I just noticed that about him, and I thought, I wonder if I could be that, instantly deal with a pain. And I had it happen the other day. I cut my finger, and I had yelp, and then I just said, "Oh, it's bleeding. I better do something about it." And I fixed it, and then I just carried on with my day. I could have dwelled on it. I could have made a big deal out of it, but I thought, I'm going to be like my dog.
So that's the lesson. The lesson is,
and I think we can all learn from the pets in our lives, and even if you don't have pets, you just observe the animals and how they deal with situations. They're always right here, right now.
That's right. They're always present, and we're not. Right. We're everywhere but here.
That's right. Wow. Well, we've covered a lot of ground already today, Elizabeth. It's been pretty amazing. Is there anything else that you'd like to say as a kind of a closing statement, or an offer for people?
Oh, well, I would like to say the greatest healer in your life lives within you. So I give 20% of the responsibility to my healing. I give to the entire medical world. Whatever kind of healer, all healers, everybody, right? And the other 80% is between me and my higher power, the force, the source of healing, that whatever you call that lives within. Because doctors can set a bone or stitch up a wound, acupuncturists can set a needle, right? But only the body knows how to heal. So when we turn our focus towards respecting the inner healer, that gives us so much more empowerment over our own healing. Now, we go to the healthcare community to help us set optimal conditions for healing. We go home and we follow orders to the best of our ability, that makes sense for us, right? And we get out of the way and we let the body heal. So the greatest healer in your life lives within. That's my
I agree with that. Yeah, and healing is as you say, it's a natural process. In our minds, it takes time, but time is also an illusion. And in reality, if you could just, I think, do a lot of personal visualization about seeing healing light coming into your body as you're doing your meditations, that can help mitigate a lot of pain, and it can help accelerate the whole process of healing in some amazing ways.
Yeah, presence is also an amazing healer. Just if we can just actually be in this moment, not trying to get into the next moment, or sitting in the last moment.
That's right.
That's a spontaneous healing really can happen there. I've seen it happen. I'm not making a claim. I'm just saying that I've seen the healing is miraculous healing. There's this miraculous healer inside of us, and everybody's got it. It's pretty cool.
That's right. Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today. I've really appreciated sharing space with you and learning more about, healing in general, about chronic pain, and about how the negative mind can make it worse. And I really appreciate your suggestions for reducing the power of the ego mind and helping us to, learn how to increase our chances of healing more quickly. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks so much, David. I appreciate the opportunity, and I love your platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And to all of you, thank you for watching today's program. Remember, you can catch the recordings of this and every other episode on my website at lifemasterytv.com, life-mastery-tv.com. Head over there sometime, watch some of the recordings, and leave some comments. That's really helpful. Please remember to practice my life mastery mantra every single day. It can work for you in terms of healing and just in terms of having a great life. And it goes like this. It's 3 parts. I gratefully forgive the imperfect being I have been in the past. I gratefully accept the magnificent being I am right now. I gratefully welcome the evolved being I am becoming in each new moment. So until we meet again, my name is David McLeod. I am your Life Mastery Coach, wishing you love, light, and blessings on your continuing journey. I'll see you next time here on Life Mastery TV. Bye-bye.